Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
It's always Michelle. If this is your
Yes.
first time tuning in to We Watch Shudder, what it's all about, it's right there in the name. Shudder is a place where you can watch horror and horror-type movies, and we do that a lot. And then we talk about the movies because we feel like we're just egotistical and lonely enough in a weird combination. Starting to step outside the Shudder universe a little bit more along the way. Thank you guys for coming along with us on that. With that in mind, Michelle, what is today's episode?
It is our October, aka Spooktober recap.
Spooktober.
We
Yeah,
watch
every month
so
we
much stuff.
Yeah,
So
every month we like to throw out this episode just talking about a bunch of random titles. Maybe they're on Shudder, maybe they're not. Michelle, who knows? Michelle, before we dig, what was your final movie count for Spooktober this year? How many films did you watch?
okay, I would like to add a disclaimer because I did think my number would be higher, but I threw in 3 seasons of a TV show
Fair.
and 2 miniseries and two
Okay.
books.
How many episodes in those 3 seasons in those miniseries?
Let's be lenient and say 35.
Total
So,
between all of them?
between all the miniseries and the seasons, 35, and then my books were probably like 20 hours. So
I don't
10
care about your
episodes.
books.
No.
Books.
So,
Who's
my
got time
number
to read?
my number was higher than last year, but I am ashamed because I know I could have just gone for numbers and gotten it really high up there. So with all of that in mind, I only hit 101.
Oh, only
Mhm.
101, you
It
guys.
was
Only.
also a huge fundraising season for the nonprofit that I do a lot of stuff with. So I was basically spending 4 days a week working on that with the crew, so I couldn't watch movies while I was actually physically there, which is unfortunate. So only 101. I'm so sorry. I will try to do better next year, and I absolutely will because I'm an overachiever. No books next year, only numbers.
So, wait, just to be clear,
Yeah.
101 movies plus the 35 TV things as well, or the 35
Yes.
TV things go in with that 101 movies?
No, 101 movies plus what did I say, 2 or 3 seasons and a miniseries. Two
Michelle,
miniseries?
you're the
Oh my
only
gosh.
person in the world who would ever be disappointed by those numbers. Nobody listening to this is like, Jesus, Michelle, what a fucking failure.
If this was an Xbox game, I would not have unlocked the achievement that very few people get. So it's
Well,
no platinum trophy level of numbers. So I got to get it up
well,
there. Next year,
if
we're doing it.
if it makes you feel any better, my total was 10 episodes of TV, or no, excuse me, 8 episodes of TV, and about 35 feature films.
It does make me feel better. Thank you.
About a third of what you did,
Yeah.
I would
No
say
books?
roughly. Michelle, who's got time to read?
That's true. That's very true.
No, I'm kidding. I'm actually working my way on audiobook through. It's taken me a little longer to get through it because it is unfortunately just by nature of the subject matter a bit of a dry read. I'm trying to pull up here quickly on my Audible what the actual title is, but it's a book about like the psychology and science of fear as it relates to
Oh
horror
shit, send me that
movies.
title.
It's called Nightmare Fuel. Nightmare Fuel, the
And the
science of
author?
horror films. The author is Nina Nesseth, Nina, last name Nesseth. Nina
Sweet.
Nesseth, Nightmare Fuel, the science of horror films.
I will
Again,
be
it's
reading
it's
that.
it's definitely a sciency write up. There's also a thing that I'm sure there's some sort of legal requirement for why they have to do it this way, but every time she names a movie in the text, she doesn't just because she's narrating her own book. I guess it wouldn't matter who the narrator was, but every time they read the name of that movie, because it very likely also appears in print this way, every time it's like Halloween, directed by John Carpenter, 1978. Friday the 13th, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, 1980. Every single time they mention a movie by name, or if they mention a character, every time they tell you who played that character. And so it's challenging. It probably would honestly be easier as a physical read than an audiobook, but I have real trouble with focus and attention span with regular books these days. So I'm trying to I listen to it specifically when I'm doing things like washing the dishes so that I'm actually able to pay attention and not get distracted. So far it's really good though. If you're into sort of the academic side of this sort of experience, it's a really good read so far.
That's actually awesome because before we started this, I told you that I was categorizing the things I wanted to talk about
Uh-huh.
for Spooktober to avoid overdoing it and talking about every episode and movie
Michelle,
and
you're not
everything.
talking about every one of those 101 movies. I'm
I'm
sorry.
absolutely not. I have
You
started a
can
movie
if
log
you know
though
what
so
you
that
can
I can
do.
personally do it. Yeah.
If you like, you can record a special bonus episode where you just ramble about them all by yourself for
Oh
however
God,
long it takes
no.
to talk
I
about them all.
started I started doing a movie log and trying to find some things to say about some of these is very, very difficult. But I
Uh,
do in our recaps, I want to start including books because I love reading
sure.
horror books. And so I put a couple on my Spooktober list. Actually, both of the
Well,
ones I read.
yeah, as well as long as we started there, and even though I
Yeah.
haven't finished it yet, we brought up Nightmare Fuel here, the one that I'm currently working through. Why don't you go ahead and talk about some of the books that you're particularly fond of this Spooktober?
Yes, so I read just two books because I was trying to get my numbers up. One of them recommended by friend of the podcast, Jenna, who never watches the movie Jenna, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. She had told me that she just read this book and that she desperately needed somebody to talk to about it and that she didn't know anybody who had. I happened to have a friend with whose opinion on books I really trust. And I happened to find out that I had a lot of Grady Hendrix on my to read list. So I threw this one on there, went in completely blind, texted her about halfway through and went, what the hell is going on? And it is great. The other one, oh my God, I could not get enough of it. Out There Screaming, an anthology of new
Is that
black
the?
horror, the introduction from Jordan Peele.
Yeah, I was just
Oh
gonna say, is that the
my
Jordan Peele
God.
one?
Yes, so he just does a quick introduction. And I know there are people who are just going to hear new black horror and think like, "Oh my God, it's going to be woke nonsense." They're going to be those types of people.
Well, those
It
people are
is
dumb.
yeah, it is fantastic. There are so many stories that legitimately made me like, "Oh, I'm so uncomfortable," and a lot of them
Nice,
end at the scariest point. There are so few that have a happy ending where it's just like, "Oh, this is the worst possible part to end it. Thanks so
real bleak
much."
shit.
And oh my God, I love bleak shit. I was all about this book. There were maybe out of all 19, I believe, stories included, there were only two that I wasn't 100% like 110% in love with. It is so good. I
Nice.
plan on looking up a lot of the authors. They were, oh God, it was so good. Highly recommended
So
if
let
you like
me
horror
let me
books.
clarify here, Michelle.
Mhm.
So you're saying there's just an introduction to this by Jordan Peele, or did he
Yep.
also curate this collection?
Oh, that's true. I believe he curated it as well. I
Okay,
wasn't sure how that would be classified. So yeah, people call it like Jordan Peele's book. I'm like, that's not really accurate. I don't know what. So he
right.
has an introduction, and he was the one who curated these.
Sort
That's
of
the word
Jordan
I was
Peele
looking for.
presents kind of situation.
Exactly. And oh my God, I'm
Nice.
so glad. I had never heard of any of these authors, and I will be checking out more of their stuff. And they're quick reads. Like each one comes out
Yeah.
to 20
I
pages. So I was trying to binge it, but then I just wound up being like, no, we're going to take our time with this one. I kind of read one each night so that I could really
Nice.
marinate.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that on Audible because again because it's an anthology short fiction.
Hmm.
That'll play into my short attention span for things a whole lot better, and I'll be able to probably dig through quite a bit of those. I've heard nothing but great things about it. So, and of
So
course,
good.
Jordan Peele has developed an insane reputation over the last few years. So it's got to
Hmm.
be worth taking a look at. So
Yeah, and a footnote, I am looking forward to ranting very angrily about the book that I am currently in the process of reading because people are like, "Oh my God, you think 50 Shades of Grey is steamy? You need to read this Anne Rice book." And I was like, I never thought 50 Shades of Grey was steamy, but sure, I'll read this like it's apparently very good BDSM book and it's awful. It's so awful. It is called The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty and they're like, "What if it was Sleeping Beauty but she was fucked awake and now she's his slave?" And it's awful. And I'm so mad and I will be ranting about it in November guaranteed. Or the November recap.
Is that
Awful.
an Anne Rice book, or is it
It
one that she wrote as A.
under a
N. Rockwalor,
pseudonym.
or
That is
perhaps
correct.
as Anne Rampling?
It is A.N. Roquelaure.
Rockwalor. I
Garbage.
only
I
know
don't know
I
why
only know
anybody
those
recommended
names
this.
because in high school I did read both Interview with the Vampire. That was the only one of those I read.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read The Mummy or Ramses the Damned. But I remember
Probably
seeing
better than
those
this fucking
names.
book.
I remember I remember seeing those names on the book always has that page at the beginning where it's like other things by the person who wrote this before you've ever even read it. So you don't even
Yep.
know if you care about other things that person has written.
Fucking
But
garbage and I'm mad about it. So that's
cool.
my book recap for
All right.
October. I won't get on but I've been ranting at friends about how much I
Right
hate it.
on.
But I
Well,
also made the mistake of immediately buying the trilogy, so I will be reading all three books just to really hate myself.
what?
It's
See, you gotta
garbage.
stop it. Sometimes being a completist is your own worst enemy, Michelle.
I know. If I
Um,
hadn't bought all three, I'm just glad I didn't buy the fourth one that came out later. So I'm only subjected to three because I own them and now I have to.
all
It's gonna
right.
suck.
Let's jump into TV next because I know that the 8
Yeah.
episodes of television that I watched are among the episodes of television that you watched. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the other things that you watched, and then we'll come into that big finale because it's one that I have definitely been wanting to talk about.
Oh no. One of the things that's gonna make you so mad, Love is Blind season 5.
Oh God, how is that Spooktober?
I did not say everything was horror themed. I think
Oh
Love is
well,
Blind is horrific.
shit,
It is
Michelle, my
horror
numbers are
adjacent.
literally just related to this
Oh God.
podcast. You're padding your numbers with non-horror shit. Get out of
Whoa.
town.
If we had to stick to just non horror or to just a horror, last Spooktober, I ran out of things to watch on streaming services that I was interested in watching. So I did have to add a few other things because the list was dwindling. I was getting into the territory of things I didn't really care about. So Love is Blind season 5 was on there.
Whatever it takes to help you sleep at night, Michelle.
Oh, thank God, I sleep terribly. The other one that I think people might actually care about is I'm finally working my way through all of Masters of Horror, so I only have 2 left of that. It's fucking
Oh,
great.
when you say you only have 2 left, do you mean like in the 2 seasons combined? I think it was 2 seasons.
Yes, there are 2 seasons,
Okay.
and I only have 2 movie /
Yeah.
episodes
I
remaining.
myself never saw the second series, but I actually watched the entire first series as it was happening on television. It was one of the
Except
last.
Imprint.
Yeah, except for Imprint, which
That's
I
on
did
my list
eventually.
to
I did
discuss. Yep.
eventually see, which is like that was crazy publicity, right? Where they're like, this movie is so extreme, even Showtime, a pay cable network, won't let them play it. Of course, there's a real voice in the back of my head, a real jaded voice that's just like, yeah, but that's also a really good publicity gimmick to sell a bunch of DVD sets when they come out. But I don't know. Mike is he's a severe transgressive sort of guy, and when I saw it, I was like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Showtime legitimately was like, no, not even we will put this on television.
Yes. I had told you I categorized these. We will pause on Mike because I have a specific category that we can talk about Imprint and a couple other things in.
All right, cool. Any other episodes, at least in that first series, that have been as special standouts for you, or anything in the second series that I should look forward to if I ever get around to it?
I think you're really gonna like Family from season 2, and the whole thing is on Tubi. That's how I've been checking it out. I really loved Dance of the Dead from season 1. And then of course John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns. Everybody says that's potentially the best aside from Imprint. So those
Yeah,
are
Cigarette
the
Burns
really
was
standout ones.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Um,
there's nothing that I'm fully like, nah, I don't really love this. There's a couple that I'm like, it's fine, but everything's good. I at least like it to some extent, and there's some really good stuff, and I'm learning some
remind
names from
me,
horror. hmm
remind me which director did Dance of the Dead? Was that Toby Hooper?
Ah, fuck, I don't have it in front of me, and I don't
Oh,
remember
okay, no
things.
problem. I just because
I'm
I
sorry.
remember more the directors who were involved. I know Stuart Gordon did the
Yeah,
very first one, which I think was Dreams in the Witch House.
Dreams in the Witch House. Yep. Or was
And that
it
was
Incident on and off of Mountain Road?
oh, that might have been the first one. Yeah,
That's the very
that's
first one.
Don
Yep,
Coscarelli, the guy who did Phantasm.
I believe
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I that series was definitely super cool. It was especially at the time it came out, like horror
hmm
was in a real sort of kind of low point, and it really needed something. And I feel like there was a little bit of revitalization that we got from that series. So I
hmm
definitely need to get around to watching the second run at some point.
I'm loving it. Just got a couple left, and it's great.
Okay,
I
so what
know
are the
that
mini series?
my
What are your
I
mini
don't
series?
well, the one that we want to talk about, we should just get to.
Oh, so
Um,
you're counting this as a mini series, even though it
you,
was 8 episodes.
yeah, of course I am. What do you think a miniseries has to be?
I'm
10?
I'm a mini series
Okay.
is like a 2 night event, Michelle.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, I'm counting this as
I came
a
up in the
miniseries.
I came up in the old school TV days
The
where it was
Rose
like
Red Days.
yeah
Yeah,
the
the
Stephen
Stephen
King's It on
King.
ABC
Yep. Or
2 night event
Storm of the
Roots.
Century. No, Storm of Century? Yeah, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah,
the one I'm counting as a miniseries
of
is
course,
one
guys.
that I know you want to talk
We all have
about.
to talk about it, guys. It's the Fall
Yeah,
of the House of Usher, that new Mike
of course.
Flanagan joint on Netflix. Did you see it? God, I hope you saw it, because if you didn't, you might want to jump forward a few minutes, because we're gonna try real hard to be non-spoilery, but who knows
I'm
what
going to be
might slip out.
non-spoilery.
Okay,
Yeah, JD
so
can't be sensitive.
so I hated the Fall of the House of Usher. I don't know what the fuck Mike Flanagan was thinking. I never want to see anything he ever does ever again. This was
How
complete
dare he?
trash.
I'm
Don't waste your
offended.
time. I'm kidding. Of course it was awesome. This guy can fucking do no wrong, Michelle.
Oh, I know. I had heard some discussion about people kind of falling off when it came to things he did later, and I told them if you like his original Haunting of Hill House, this is so similar to that in atmosphere that if that was the thing that you like that Flanagan has done, give this a try, even if you didn't like things like Midnight Mass. Because this is fantastic. I enjoyed it
Yeah.
so much. There is a particular death in this one that made me so shaken up because I was not expecting it that I had to pause and rewind a couple minutes just to be like, "Will it? Oh, yep, okay, cool. It's
Which one are
great.
you
So
talking
good.
about, Michelle? Do your best to tell me
Yep.
without being spoilery.
Yeah, it is the first child.
Oh, the wait,
Yep, yep.
at the
You
party.
know exactly what I'm talking about. Well,
Oh
I was
yeah.
thinking now you're saying which child dies first. So
What?
now you're saying which child dies first. We tried.
oh.
It's okay.
Oh.
It's all
Anyway,
good.
yeah, guys. What a fabulous production. If you know or are very familiar with Edgar Allan Poe, this is delightful. Because not only like each episode is sort of inspired by the plot of a specific Poe story. And then the overarching story for the series is inspired, of course, by Fall of the House of Usher. And then there are also just other Poe references layered in throughout here. Just the amount of work that went into how much fucking layering there is in this is fantastic. Also, I think I was 5 of 8 episodes into this series before I realized fucking Mark Hamill was even in it. Like, Luke
Wow.
Skywalker gives such a fucking wild performance that I was just like, who? I sat there for the first several episodes. I was like, this guy is so familiar. Why can't I figure out who the fuck it is? And then once it hit me, I felt real dumb.
You know what? You should. Can't even defend that. You call yourself a nerd? That's what I say.
I know. I think what I'm doing is giving his performance the highest possible
It
compliment.
is a
He
very, very
disappears
good. True.
into the and tons of people are very good in this. Heads up, because I was the series is oddly sexual. In a like it's definitely Mike getting up into like there's you probably like I don't know if this is like his comeback response from doing Midnight Club, which was more sort of young adult oriented or what, but like, and I don't have a problem with that. It was just an element of it that I found really surprising. But I guess in the scope of Poe things, also rather appropriate. I also like the way this series plays its big set pieces and its horrific moments the same way Poe does, where it's a lot of hinting and suggesting, and it all kind of builds to this just sort of crescendo. And I love how they do that in so many of these. They save their moments, and when they shoot, they fucking shoot, man. There is some rough shit in this in this series.
I agree.
All right. Well, now what are we
The
going to talk
end.
about?
Well, I can go into my next category. I'm not going to talk about Saw. Obviously, that took up a huge chunk of my Spooktober.
2 hours
Watched.
and 41 minutes
Yep.
talking
I
about
just
Saw
need to
1
mention
through
in the
7.
recap. Yep, I
Oh
did
my
watch all the
God.
Saws. I watched some of them multiple times, and now I was having a panic attack last week, and my husband was like, "Is there something I can do for you?" I was like, "Can we watch a comfort movie?" And I put on Saw 1. And now we're working our way through Saw. So I'm watching them again in November.
Why would you do that
He's
to yourself?
now well, because I fucking love Saw. That's why.
I'm just giving a shit.
Okay, but next category, let's go with documentaries. I watched a whole bunch this
Oh, I saw one,
Spooktober.
but we're definitely going to talk about that a little bit.
Ooh, interesting. So I watched some of the notable ones. Unsolved Mysteries Behind the Legacy. That was pretty interesting. TMZ presents Tragically Viral. That was not super interesting. Making 1899, which I have talked about on this podcast, is how much I fucking loved 1899 and Dark and how mad I am that they were canceled. So watching Making 1899 made me even angrier about that because it's so brilliant. I'm so angry. Hot Potato, the story of the Wiggles. I cried like a fool. It was so great. I fucking love the Wiggles. People don't appreciate them. And then probably the one that I was waiting the most or like most excited about, aside from the one that I know you wanna talk about. The Devil on Trial, which is about Ed and Lorraine Warren and the original story of The Conjuring.
I still need to
I
see
can
that.
Yeah, I completely expected it to take a stance and then tell that story throughout. But I was actually surprised that it does try to, we'll say, offer some different perspectives. And I didn't feel like it was trying to sell me on something, which I was really, really worried about. So that was definitely worth
Oh,
the
so
watch.
wait, are
Mhm.
so you're saying that the movie about notorious con artist Ed and Lorraine Warren lended some credence to their side of things?
I will say that I was very surprised halfway
JD has some
through.
opinions about Ed and Lorraine Warren,
Oh, I
which do
know.
not in
And
any
that's
way
why I
play into
don't
his opinions of the Conjuring franchise, but oh man, I got some thoughts on those people.
I will say that I do not want to give anything away,
Of
but that I
course.
expected it to be an advertisement for The Conjuring, and it was not.
That's
So
awesome.
that
No,
is what I was happy about. It was
I
legitimately a documentary
I'm very
about
much
that.
looking forward to seeing it just for a
Mhm.
lot of reasons. Yeah.
And then this isn't really a documentary. It's kind of like reality TV, but I did watch Vanessa Hudgens' Dead Hot season of The Witch, and I laughed my ass off.
Oh my god.
It's so good, but it's so bad. But like, oh man, I would love to go ghost hunting with Vanessa Hudgens and have matching coats. And be like, oh my god, I'm getting in touch with my witchy side. And I was so annoyed, but I was like, God damn it, this is why I'm like on ghost hunt. So those are my notable documentaries.
Well, to get into the
Aside from
one
the
that
one, yep,
to
I
get
know
into
it's
the
on
one
your
that
list.
and we're not gonna there's really not a lot to talk about it, but the nice dovetail here is another thing that Michelle would do that I would absolutely never be involved in is the extreme haunt phenomenon that's been going on for the last few years. I want to be very clear right away. Like just the whole concept of extreme haunts, what consenting adults choose to do for themselves, so long as they are able to consistently maintain that consent, are able to remove it at any time and remain completely safe. Do you, fam, go nuts. I ain't gonna be anywhere fucking near this thing. But that, of course, is all crucial to what we're talking about. Michelle, you would love to participate in some kind of extreme haunt thing. Is that this is correct? We've talked about this.
Absolutely. However, not the one that this documentary was
Yeah,
specifically targeting. Fuck that. That is not a haunt. That is willful torture. No, thank you.
it's
Take it away, JD.
we're talking
God
about
damn.
McCamey Manor. Those of you
Ugh.
who know this topic know there's a movie called Monster Inside. It's on Hulu. It's about this guy Russ McCamey. Look, here's my breakdown of I think what happened. I think Russ McCamey made a haunted house. And then the more extreme haunted houses and the more, the severe haunts started to have their heyday. And so he started pushing and pushing. And then he started getting this reputation as just the sickest, most extreme haunt in the world. And I think he went mad with that reputation. And he got addicted to some really gross things that he gets off on. And he this is basically a whole situation where he's fucking conning people with a variety of different concerning situations. And it is, hey, come out to my house and let me fucking torture you for several days. Like, there's these disclaimers that he has people sign, and they're utterly fucking meaningless. They bring in all these legal experts to tell you this disclaimer or whatever, this waiver is bullshit. You can't sign away your rights to these sorts of things. Having a safe word means nothing if you're gagged and unable to say a safe. It's a guy who got caught up in something and has clearly gone way too fucking far, and I have no idea how he continues to fucking get away with this shit, Michelle. You've actually spent time like in the Facebook groups and the people who are like really going after this situation. Like, how does he keep getting away with this?
So, with my obsession with wanting to do an extreme haunt, which I know I could go out there and do it, but I'm also, I'm scared at the same time. There are none in our area. I think if there was one that I was like, Saturday night, I can go do this, and have a good time, and it was just a drive down the street, it would be different. I have to travel for this thing. There's nothing in the area worth doing along the levels of what I'm looking for. So while searching out stories of like what was this extreme haunt in New York, what was their story this year and what did they wind up doing? I love reading the recaps because they don't want you to reveal it until obviously the season is over and then you can find out like what did they do to people this year. Of course, while looking into that, McCamey Manor every year comes up and I have gone down some deep, deep rabbit holes and wound up in Facebook groups with people who have gone through it despite not being one myself. I'm an excellent bullshitter. And that's the thing that I'm fascinated by is there's a large number of people who have done this and regretted it and still have done nothing about it. And I have so many questions because I'm like, you're clearly outspoken enough to be upset about it. Are
Three of them
you talking to
appear in this
lawyers?
documentary, Michelle.
Exactly.
There are three
And
people in this documentary who will tell, like, they're flat out telling you what this guy did to them. You have legal experts in this documentary talking about how none of this shit would ever stand up in court, And yet somehow, like, this isn't even a haunted house anymore. Literally, what McCamey Manor is now, there's not even a staff. You just go out to Russ's house in the middle of the fucking wilderness. It's just you and him, and he just takes you out into the wilderness and tortures you until he decides to be done. And that's the extreme haunted house experience. How the fuck does this keep happening?
I think that's why it's fascinating to me, like, because I'm thinking these people, if they were that traumatized, they must have thought at some point, I should pursue legal matters. Is there nobody willing to pursue that? And now that there's Hulu coverage, so much more awareness of it, now will
Right.
they do
Maybe.
that? Or are they
Maybe.
not interested? I'm very curious. That's the part that fascinates me, because there are so many people
Yeah.
who say, I was extremely traumatized by what I went through. And there are also people who say they loved it. And that's fine if that's your thing.
Sure.
Like we said,
And
what
I
consenting
do want
adults
to,
do.
something
Mhm.
that's been rolling around in my head here for just the last couple of minutes. While I was ranting there about Russ, I think the way I talked about certain things maybe creates an impression that I actually don't want to create. Like, I understand it, because a big part of this documentary is also breaking down the psychology behind people who are interested, at least in the concept of extreme haunts in general. And I don't want to I don't want to suggest that anybody is, oh, they're just a fucking wacko or
Well, I
whatever, or
am.
they're damaged or any of this.
That's
I have my own issue, and I just think the way I may have talked about it a moment ago wasn't necessarily the best. But what's horrifying about this is I get all of that, right? Like, I understand why certain people want to go through, like, there's a beautiful scene at the end of this documentary of this really cathartic moment for this person who goes through one of these experiences where you're able to be secure in your safety, and they take everything very seriously, and I get it. And it's just disgusting how this guy is basically taking advantage of that to get off on torturing people. And it's God, I could fucking rant about that guy all goddamn night.
Yeah. That's the part that I did want to mention too, is that near the end of this, they do show what an extreme haunt should be versus what it shouldn't.
Right.
And I cried so
And
hard
side note,
because that
it's
catharsis.
still not something I'm ever gonna fucking do. Holy shit.
No, I thought it
No.
was the way that you felt her catharsis just really resonated with me too, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that
Yeah.
I like about it. I have talked a little bit. I come from a very traumatic situation, so going through something like that and then coming out on top, I can see why that would make you feel so powerful and just like I can do
Absolutely.
anything, and
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love that concept. Russ McCamey doesn't seem to do it that way because people aren't coming
No.
out saying I feel changed for the better, which they
Oh
do
God, it's
quite frequently at extreme haunts. I have so many questions. Like, you people seem to want to pursue legal action. Why can't you? I just want to know why.
yeah.
I'm fascinated from that perspective. Like, Judge Judy should take on this case. I'd watch that episode. I'd watch any episode with
Fuck
Judge
yeah. I'd
Judy.
watch
She's
Judge
wrong
Judy
so
take on
often.
Russ
I fucking love
McCamey.
her.
She'd
Every time
throw
my
the
dad's
goddamn book at
hospitalized,
that guy.
every time my dad's hospitalized, that's our thing that we watch. I'm like, oh shit, coming out of surgery is Judge Judy on.
Yeah,
It's our thing. I bet he would love the McCamey episode.
for sure, for
But
sure.
yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Let me
So,
ask you this, Michelle. They talk about
hmm
this a bit in the documentary. One of the things that Russ famously always claimed as part of his marketing of this nonsense is that he had a waiting list about 20,000 names long. Do you believe it or not?
I don't know if that number is correct, but there is definitely a waiting list of people who just want to get into this. And I think
That's
some of it
insane.
is I don't want to say people like me because I would not do that, but maybe people with even more of an obsession where I do have questions about like what goes on, and there are probably people out there that are like, I don't really want to do this, but I do want to know what goes on, and they don't want to watch the full live stream. And I think the live stream cuts at certain points, so you can't see the full thing anyway. And they've talked about like some things where they're like, I can't even explain what was going on, but there was unauthorized dentistry. I'm like, I don't want to experience that, but I have so many questions. And I think that's
Right.
probably a big part of it. Like, unauthorized dentistry? No, thank you.
And I mean, like,
No,
I don't
nuh-uh.
I don't want to please don't take this as suggesting anything, but I'm also doesn't this guy worry that somebody's gonna sneak their way in there and fuck him up? Like, isn't he afraid that somebody's gonna just go vigilante on his ass and just go out into the middle of nowhere with him and just, I don't know, fucking knife him in the neck or something?
See, and
Like,
that's why I'm so fascinated. How has that not happened? Somebody who
right?
was bigger than him and it triggered like a terrible response, whether or not
Oh,
they wanted to, and
yeah,
they went ballistic.
it's
Yeah,
madness,
I have.
guys.
It's fascinating to me the fact that it still keeps happening and that people want to do it. That's why I have questions.
Yeah, I've seen
Um,
I've seen a couple of different smaller, they've talked about McCamey Manor as one of many different haunted houses in a few different documentaries I've seen. This is the most detailed and graphic portrayal of what's going on there, but I definitely think you should go check it out. It's a fascinating documentary. And again, it's not just about him. What I really like about it, because the people who participate in these things are demonized very much, because that's where a
oh
lot
yeah,
of people is just like, why the fuck would you even do that? You got what you were asking for, sort of thing. And it does a very good job of discussing and exposing the psychology of where this kind of behavior comes from. And I think that is every bit as important about this documentary as everything else that you get from it.
absolutely. I was
Sweet.
fascinated, and even I feel like I know a lot about it, and there were still some things where I was like, wow, that's I did not know that. So worth a watch if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Since we talked about McCamey Manor, my next category is emotionally devastating. Should we get to this one?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So every Spooktober, I like to revisit and just Google like what's the most fucked up movies to see what I haven't seen out there. And when I was going through the list, I realized there were a lot of things that other people have mentioned a lot, and I still had never seen them. So a couple first time things that are classics: the Poughkeepsie tapes from 2007, I had never watched. Eden Lake 2008, super sad.
Wait,
Frozen from
you
2000.
had never seen the Poughkeepsie tapes?
No,
How is
I.
that possible?
It's one of those where I thought I had,
Okay,
and
okay,
then I
that's
watched
fair.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
and I was like, "Oh, cuz it's always on the list." So I thought I had after watching it. No, I've never seen it in my life. So yeah, that like found footage and fucked up. Yes, please. Eden Lake, Frozen, where people are trapped on a ski lift. Some people, it's
Oh,
obviously like a
not
different
Disney's
type.
Frozen.
Ha ha ha. Just like the girl next door that we talked about, where I'm like, oh man, I fucking love that romantic comedy, which I do. I made that joke yesterday and then I had to explain why it was a joke and what I was referring to. So don't watch the other version. Grotesque from 2009, which I did not enjoy. The sound effects kind of ruined it. And then there's a movie that I think will eventually wind up on the types of list of like Salo and a Serbian film, like that level of fucked up. I wouldn't say it's quite on that level, but it's the closest thing I've seen in modern days, and that's Megalomaniac. It was released in 2022, but I think it just finally became a lot more attainable. So I checked that out. It's pretty fucked up, and it'll probably do that to a lot of people. And then, of course, I had to rewatch a couple things after mentioning it, I think in September, and somebody saying, is Michelle okay? No, I'm not. I did rewatch Martyrs from 2008.
Why would you
Um,
do that to yourself?
and I had messaged JD and I was like, Martyrs is one of those movies that you can't ever tell somebody it's your favorite horror movie, and you just have to say, like, yeah, I like The Lion King or some shit. Like, I still stand by it, that it is a fantastic movie. I think because the ending just fucked me up so badly. But in the right kind of way. I guess if there's that. And then of course, Mike, I rewatched Audition and I rewatched Imprint as part of Masters of Horror. And I think I've briefly mentioned this before, but Imprint from Masters of Horror, that's my limit. I found my limit. I had a very hard time watching that, especially a second
It's
time. So I found my
yeah.
limit. What the fuck
So
is with that guy in needles?
that but not Human Centipede 2?
Oh, the thing is, Human Centipede 2 is so absurd to me that it goes beyond the level of like this is real and my brain can't
Okay,
handle it.
let me try to ask this question in a way that I think is perfectly spoiler free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was the harder part for you the thing with the hands or the thing at the river?
The hands.
Oh, well, fuck. Are you fucking serious?
Yes. The thing at the river. Well, okay, I'm
Oh,
not
you.
surprised knowing you that the thing at
Wow.
the river is not is
Wow.
way worse for you. And
How is
I
it
know what
not way
you're
worse
referring
for
to.
you? I even hate
No.
hand stuff, Michelle. Oh, my God.
No, for me it was the hand stuff and particularly
Okay.
the gum stuff. Oh
Okay.
my
Fair. Yeah.
god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair
I had a
enough.
really, really hard time watching that. And yeah, the river
Takashi
didn't touch me
Miike's
as much.
fucked up, you guys, if you don't know
I love
that.
him
And
though.
I mean, don't get me wrong, several titles that fucked up, but in I think a very enjoyable way, and each one of them also very unique. I always tell people if you're gonna go into Miike, the ones you're gonna see are Audition, Ichi the Killer, Visitor Q, Imprint from Masters of Horror. Gozu is very good. This guy is just a fucking madman.
Visitor Q is questionable. If you
Visitor
have to
Q
watch.
is
God
was
damn.
Visitor
So
Q was
weird.
the first movie I ever saw where I genuinely was like, how the fuck is this allowed to exist? Like
Yeah.
it is.
It's so
Oh
bizarre.
god damn.
Don't start with that one.
No.
I mean, maybe
Don't
watch it if you kind
start
of like
with
it. Yeah.
put
Do not
Visitor
start.
Q at the end probably. Either that one or
Yeah.
maybe Ichi.
I
But I
think
think
Audition is the one that's easiest to stomach.
yeah, start with
Yeah.
Audition.
Start with
for sure.
Audition. and then see how you feel. Okay, what's your next one? Baby?
From Michelle's bleak and emotionally devastating, I saw 3 horror comedies this month that I really
That's my next
enjoyed.
category.
That I
Sweet.
thought were a good time. First one I finally saw from early. All of these that I'm going to talk about, except one here, are actually also movies from this year. I spent a lot of Spooktober catching up on some things that I haven't seen yet. Finally saw Renfield, which it was all right. I didn't hate it. It's not one that I think I'll go back and watch again anytime soon. I mean, you got Nicolas Cage just caging it up. Of course, he's always a fun thing to see. I tell you what I loved about this movie is that fucking yet again it's another movie I've seen where Aquafina fucking steals the show. That lady is so goddamn funny and naturalistic in her comedy. God damn, that that was the biggest thing I took away from this is that it very much was her place to stand out. Have you seen Renfield, Michelle?
Yes, I saw it in theaters, and I
Oh,
think
okay.
we had
What
talked
did you
about you
think?
coming with. I loved it. I love Nicolas Cage. I love Nicholas Holt. Anything where Nicolas Cage is doing his thing. Actually, one of the things I watched in Spooktober was Sympathy for the Devil, Sympathy of the Devil. Can't remember, but it's a Nicolas Cage film, and he is just being so Nicolas Cagey. I
Oh,
texted our
he's the
friend
best.
Erin, and I was like, "You have to see this. It's not a great movie, but God, Nicolas Cage does his cagiest, and I just like anytime he is let out. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is one of my favorite movies of
I had a good
modern
time with that
age.
one. You put Nicolas
Oh my
Cage and
god.
Pedro Pascal on screen
Oh,
together, give me a fucking break.
it is so great. So yeah, just I'm a huge Cage fan. Anything that man does, I will love. I can't help it.
Yeah,
He's like Mike Flanagan, where I'm like, even if he does something flawed, fuck it. I love it. I love that
right.
man. Let him
Uh,
do all the things.
I did think it was interesting that as I was watching this, I was like, is this based on some like comic book or graphic novel? And it's not, but it was written by Robert Kirkman, of course, who famously gave us The Walking
Oh,
Dead in comic book form.
fucking love
But
the Walking Dead comics.
it
Oh my
it
god.
just smacked of like one of those alternate universe comic books where somebody takes a thing but does a real clever and unique spin on it. It was fun. It was definitely fun. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Also,
Have the Robert Kirk. Oh my God, Kirkman. My
Kirkman.
brain. Yes, thank you. My brain broke right as I tried to say
Oh,
it, which is
well,
crazy. I fucking
and
love those
so
books.
yeah, so two other horror comedies I saw. I also saw Slaughterhouse,
Oh yes,
which was fucking fabulous.
I loved it
Just
so much.
the most ridiculous, fucking absurd, hilarious. Just it's what I love about it is like so there's a certain type of movie lately where it's like deliberately trying to be schlocky in a certain way, like in a throwback
Slothy,
sort of homage way. Schlocky. Not slothy,
slothy.
no. Schlocky.
Sorry, I'm a little slow today.
We're actually going to talk about another one of those in one of my other groups here. But this movie, like, that's a very difficult task for me. Most of the time, it feels really bad. Like, I don't understand. Like, it feels very artificial. And this movie manages the very difficult balancing act of like, okay, hang on, the dog's attacking me. Oh my God, he doesn't like talking about the
Oh no,
sloths.
he's being mauled. Oh
Oh
no,
God,
JD, call the police.
but yeah, this very nicely walks that balancing act between obviously being a throwback to some kind of ridiculous monster movie or the crazy animal or the animal gone murderous situation uh without feeling like a put on. It feels like it feels like one of those movies that came into its charm just not, I don't want to say accidentally, but it doesn't feel forced or put on in any way. I had so much fun with this. I'm not talking about it very well, but I think you saw this one also, Michelle, did you not?
Yes, and I loved it, and I think you might have been able to articulate a little better what I have not. Like it feels like a solid movie about a funny sloth instead of a low budget movie that is supposed to be funny for that reason. I'm not a huge fan of movies that are bad and that's why you're laughing.
Right.
That's just
Especially
not my
not when
thing.
when they're trying to do that on purpose. Right? Like that's
Exactly.
the idea is
Not Winter Beast.
we're making an homage to bad or
Mhm.
to I don't even want to say bad, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this
So this it's so good. It was a
this
quality film.
right. These are some people who they didn't say we're gonna parody or be an homage to that. They're like, we're just gonna do that
Mhm.
with what we have today, and it works. It's so goddamn funny. It's so the sloth puppet in this thing is fucking ridiculous.
And
God, it's a good
adorable.
time. I had so much fun with this. This is great. This is like right up there for me with movies like Gremlins and Ghoulies. This was fucking awesome.
I thought it was very similar to Cocaine Bear, which I fucking loved from
Oh,
last year.
if
And
we
this
were
was the sloth version.
oh yeah, if you put those two together,
Mhm.
I mean, I definitely, I mean, Cocaine Bear was fun, but I think this is the superior film by far.
Oh, don't make me fight you, but okay.
Uh, and then the third horror comedy that I saw this month that I really appreciated was new Blumhouse release on Amazon Prime called Totally Killer. It's a comedy slasher film. The Sabrina the Teenage Witch from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix is in it. What's her name? Kieran Shipka. She's the
Yes,
main
correct.
person. It's no secret because it's been in all the promo materials that it's kind of a time travel movie. It's basically like Back to the Future if it was a slasher movie. And it's fun. It's ridiculous. It's a little too long. They very easily could have edited this down a little bit. Also, I don't know who it is over at Blumhouse who likes these sort of horror comedy movies that have a little bit of of a time fuckiness or a time travel element. Happy Death Day, famously a time loop movie, and then Happy Death Day 2U also does some funky stuff with time. I don't know what it is over there. I don't have a problem with it. But no, this was fun. It's an adequately done slasher. It successfully keeps you guessing, and it was a good time. Did you see Totally Killer, Michelle?
I did. I actually
Awesome.
finally
Of
got around
course
to
you
that
did.
one
Why did I
too.
even ask?
Well, I think it was one that was released on Prime during Spooktober, and so it had been on my list for a while. And of course, like the ones that most people have seen, if it drops, I'm gonna be one of the people who has to watch it. Like Love Is Blind season 5, I had to get in there really quick.
Jesus God.
So yeah, I don't have anything to add aside from what you had already stated. I was gonna put it
Sure.
in my horror comedy list, but I thought you might do that one, and I
For
didn't have
sure.
much more to add
Oh,
aside that.
okay. So I was just looking here quickly because I realized I hadn't ever done so. But so I'm looking into this. The director, her name is Nanachka Khan. And it looks like this is her first horror film of any kind. But she also directed one of Ali Wong's stand-up specials for Netflix, and also directed. Did you ever? You know Ali Wong, don't you?
Yeah, is it the what is it,
Always
Cobra
the Always
Baby?
Be
Is
My Maybe, that movie that she co-starred in.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I was thinking of
This
her
that
stand-up, which
no,
I think
yeah.
is called like
The one
Cobra
it's
Baby or
the
something.
stand-up special she directed was Don Wong just did last year, 2022.
Oh, I haven't seen
Uh,
that one yet. Okay.
no, I haven't either. But yeah, she directed the feature film "Always Be My Maybe" that Ali Wong
Okay.
starred in. If you haven't seen it, it's great. It's not horror by any means, but no, it was really good time.
What romantic comedy recommended on We Watch Shudder? Illegal. Call the
Shut
cops on both
up.
your dog
Shut
and
up.
yourself.
Oh no shit. Also, I just happened to learn here because I was looking at her Wikipedia page. Her brother is Nick Khan, who is currently president and CEO of WWE.
I like how sometimes this show just evolves into you and I reading IMDb and being surprised
Hey
by the
man,
results.
the Wikipedia rabbit hole is real, and if we're
Oh yeah,
incorporating that into our experience of the podcast, I think everybody
we're
understands.
real. Everybody knows we
Those
don't edit.
those were my three standout horror comedies that I saw in Spooktober. I know you said you had some horror comedies as well. What do you
Yes, I
got?
actually had three. I after the emotionally devastating period, I did have to go watch some horror comedy and jazz it up. My friend Kristen recommended this one, and she was so fucking proud that she recommended a movie that not only had I never heard of, but I had never seen and that I enjoyed. And she's so proud. So I had to make sure I mentioned it during Spooktober. That is Get Duked from 2019. I think I watched it on Prime, but I don't remember. It's all blurring together at this point. If you like the kids from Attack the Block, this is those characters, except they are on I don't know if it's a wilderness retreat, what you would call it, like a survival course where their grade is dependent on them being out in the woods and surviving, and they start getting hunted down by this guy who is a duke. And it is so fucking funny. One of the guys, DJ Beetroot, who insists that his name is not the vegetable, it is BEAT root because it's the root of the beet. But everybody tells them, no, you're named after a beetroot, and people aren't going to want to hear that. He has one of my favorite lines, and that is, I can't die. I'm the future of hip hop. And I've just been yelling that at people over the last week, and nobody's heard of Get Duked. So they have no idea what I'm referencing. But I laughed
I have never heard
so
of it until
hard.
this exact moment.
Yes, it's fantastic. If you like the kids from Attack the Block, it's those kinds of kids who are just hooligans, but now they're out in the woods, and I laughed. I loved it. My
Sweet.
next one, Blood Sucking Bastards. It is basically The Office, but with vampires.
Oh God.
Like what if ever well no might be a terrible thing. Like the guy from Cabin in the Woods, whose name I've forgotten, Fran Kranz.
Yeah.
Fran
Fran
Kranz.
Fran Kranz.
I
Yeah.
I don't know what the emphasis is, but so he plays the lead guy, Evan, and basically he is just working an office job and slowly notices his coworkers becoming vampires. It also has Pedro Pascal and Joey Kern and a bunch of other people who I love, and it is great. It's actually basically yep,
Fran
that guy.
Kranz.
That dude, Mr. FK. He's very similar to the guy he played in Cabin in the Woods, and I think I'm in love with him. So Bloodsucking Bastards, it's very funny. And then my last one, also one I had never heard of. I love discovering new stuff. And this one, I did have to message our friend Derek Haugen from I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker and tell him he had to check it out if he hadn't because it reminded me of his movie. And he said he had already seen it. So you know it's good. Murder Party from
Oh yeah, I've seen Murder
2007.
Party.
Oh my God. I was laughing my ass off. When I put out my graphic with my favorite movies from Spooktober, Murder Party will be on there. I laughed so hard. It's just a guy who goes to a murder party and is surprised that it is exactly what it sounds like.
Right.
It's great. I had a great time after being completely horrified by humanity. So that's how I ended my Spooktober. And then I watched more
Awesome.
Saw, of course.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Murder Party. I think this is the movie. I think it is.
It's worth rewatching.
But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. All right, so that was our life in horror comedy for October. So I got two other things here. These are kind of double feature things that I want to talk about for some movies that I found uniquely kind of related. One set, again, two films from this year. One of these I know you've seen, one I'm not sure, and I know that the one you have seen is one of your favorites of the year, and maybe one of my favorites as well. Those movies are Cobweb, directed by Samuel Bowden, written by Chris Thomas Devlin. And The Boogeyman, directed by our friend Rob Savage, who made one of the most incredible found footage films in the history of cinema called Host.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
And just tell you, I went to a party on Friday and I did make them watch Host, and it was
did you?
hilarious.
Did you make them watch it on a laptop?
No, and I told them that if it wasn't like a bunch of us watching it, but I just have to say, getting to watch people experience that movie for the first time, hilarious. It still makes me jump. It's so great.
Well, and I guess I kind of understand, but also, Michelle, imagine 5 or 6 people in a dark room all huddled around a laptop watching that movie.
With certain friends, that would be great. Not this group.
Okay, fair enough.
I cannot imagine them huddled in front of a laptop and not complaining.
Fair enough. So yeah, and then the other one was The Boogeyman, directed by Rob Savage, from a book or a short story rather by Stephen King. That was part of his most. Let's see, it was what book was that part of? The Night Shift collection. Yeah, going all the way back to that one. I put these together because they're both very much in that sort of familial horror vibe. Some very interesting relationships between parents and children. But also, I feel like, first of all, I'm with you. Cobweb, guys, if you haven't seen this film, it had a very brief theatrical release, but I loved this film. This is so good. Some really intense shit going on here, some twists and turns that I saw coming, and then some that I completely did not. This is a movie that will keep you guessing in all the best ways all the way through. At least it did for me. Michelle saw this in the theater, did you not?
No, it was one that I was really sad that I missed because it was just a very, very busy time. So right when it dropped, actually, I might have paid to rent it. I don't think I waited until it was on Hulu, and then I started messaging people and saying either rent this or the second it's available.
Yeah, because you definitely
something.
mentioned this to me for the first time a while ago. So it
yeah,
must
I was
have been
gonna say
a VOD.
it was like 2 months ago. The second it became available to rent, I think part of it is watching Homelander in anything aside from The Boys is unnerving in itself. So I fucking love Anthony Starr. So I went, Anthony Starr's in this, and then Why the fuck did I forget her name? And you were
Lizzie
going to know
Kaplan.
her name. Thank you. I was going to say Lisa, and I knew that was wrong. So seeing those two do anything together, I was like, I'm 100% whatever this is. I have to see it. And I was right. There's a
Oh,
part in
I've
there that when I think of scariest stuff I've seen recently, there is a particular scene from that movie that would be on my list because it is perfect, perfectly scary, and
in
I
Cobweb.
loved it. Yes, in Cobweb.
I'll have to ask you
With
off air to tell me
I was gonna say
specifically which
without
one.
saying, I think this would be vague enough. We'll say the nightmare scene.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Because
fucked
there
up.
is a particular thing where I'm like, holy shit! Like it legitimately, like sitting at home made me go like, wow, oh my
Yeah,
god, it's
yeah. And
it's spooky. It's good. I love it.
I've been a fan of Lizzie Kaplan for quite some time. She is fantastic here.
Loved her in
It's
Mean
a
Girls.
it's
Not
a, it's
even
a,
joking. Fucking love
a
Mean Girls.
creepy kid movie. And the creepy kid is fucking creepy. It's yeah, really good. The Boogeyman also is very different film in a lot of ways. But again, has that sort of familial trauma and tragedy kind of vibe, disconnection between the parents and the children. I didn't hate it. I think it's solid. I think in a lot of ways where the Boogeyman fails for me is, and this is a weird way to say it, but it very much feels like an early version or a bad imitation of really good Stephen King stuff. And the fact that this was in his 1978 short story collection and originally written in 1973, like it's not terrible, but it does a lot of things very ham-fistedly that he would be later become a lot better at. So I definitely applaud it. It's awesome to see Rob Savage moving from found footage because his movie in between here was Dash
Dash Cam,
Cam,
which
which
made
I
me
wasn't the
so
biggest
sick I
fan
couldn't
of.
watch it. I was
Yeah,
so sad.
I wasn't the biggest fan. But this really also as you watch it, if you know, and I did know going in that he had directed it. It's interesting to see him sort of adapting some of his techniques from especially from Host and translating them. He's just as good as at creating tension in this environment as he is in the other. I think it's a movie worth seeing, even though it is flawed. But I actually watched that and Cobweb just by chance back to back on the same night, and it was really interesting to me how they share a lot of themes and ideas.
It's one of those where the reveal made me disappointed. If they hadn't done a big reveal,
Yes.
I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the mystery of this, but it's too much like I can overtly see what's happening, and that just,
Yeah,
if
it's
it doesn't
very
work out, it takes me
beholden
completely out.
to the horror elements of the story in a way that's kind of unfortunate.
Exactly. But I do love Sophie Thatcher.
She's
I first saw her
fabulous.
in Yellow Jackets, which I binged earlier this
She's
year.
the
So
older
great.
daughter, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Sadie Harper. And then anything David Dastmalchian does.
He
Just
is
fucking love that
fabulous.
man. Side note, I do love Last Podcast on the Left. Of course, I'm a fucked up human. Of course, I love them. And they do a thing called Last Stream on the Left, where every week they just watch videos together and then talk about them, which is basically when my friend Aaron lived here. That's what I would do every week. I'd be like, I found all these short movies. I'm coming over to your house. And I'd put them on the TV and make him watch them. So it's basically what I did with him. But they just had a goth night with David Dastmalchian on there. And they all dressed up in goth clothing, and he talked about the funeral home that he either owns or is a sponsor for. And I just love that man. His wife's a stand-up comedian, and she roasted him, and it was great. I loved it so much.
Yeah, I
So
love
yeah,
seeing
side
him
note,
in
I just
anything,
enjoy him.
especially since, like, I mean, obviously we've seen him in a variety of things, but uh, I started seeing him in some of those like talking head panel shows about horror things. And anytime somebody is like a cool performer, but is also very obviously, very genuinely just a fan of this shit, like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for this kind of movie, you almost want everybody who's in it to like this kind of thing, because there are certain things in horror movies. A lot of horror movies, I think, are lacking in a lot of ways, because you can tell some of the performers are just not able in their own head to fully commit to the gimmick. And he just like I buy him as a frazzled, harried, harassed by evil fucking father at the end of his rope. He's in this movie maybe 10 minutes, but it's fucking phenomenal.
He's my
10 minutes.
favorite part. And
Yeah.
it's not even a biased thing of like, I just love him as a human. I think he feels very, like you said, genuine. He seems
Yeah.
very nice. He seems like he really cares about
Mm-hmm.
the art of what he's doing. But aside from that, like his character is just so good. It's definitely like it's near the beginning of the film that he has his portions, and that's what really hooked me. I think without that character, I wouldn't have been as on board for it. But God, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was
last thought on
decent, yeah.
last thought on the Boogeyman. One of the things, honestly, that was, I think, a little flawed in it is I didn't appreciate or enjoy very much the very end, like the last scene. I was like, oh man, come on, are we really doing this? But
Of course,
it is
they
what
did
it is. What?
Of course, they did it.
Yeah,
It's
of
just
course
how
they did.
horror movies have a very difficult
Yeah.
time ending.
I know.
We know this.
They
If
do.
it's really good,
They
it's
do.
gonna end in the shittiest way.
Yeah.
It's just
you
how,
s-
unless it's martyrs.
You have oh god, you have two more groups of things you wanted to talk about. Is my math
No,
correct?
I had 4 total documentaries, emotionally devastating, horror comedy, and books.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So you're done? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh God, I thought you meant you had 4 groups of movies aside from the books and the other things.
No,
'Cause I
I'm
still
good.
got, like,
I told you.
I still got like 3
Perfect.
movies I wanted to talk about. You got
That's
anything else you
fine.
want to talk
You know
about,
what?
Michelle?
You know what I love? That you were so worried that I was going to talk too much during this episode and
I
it would turn
wasn't.
into another Saw and it would be a 3-hour thing. And I was like, no, I condensed it. And I think a lot of what I talked about was in response to you because they didn't put it on my list. So no, I'm good. I'm through my stuff. I had my notes. I said what I need to say, and now you go through yours, and I'll probably respond to it. This is fine. I just love that I watched a lot, but you talk a lot, so it's a good balance.
Wow. Also, Michelle,
You're really good at saying thoughts. I'm
at
terrible. I just
at no
absorb.
point whatsoever I take offense, ma'am, to your insinuation that I suggested I was afraid that you might talk for a long time about these films. I don't believe.
Your exact phrasing
Oh, Jesus.
was, "I don't want a woman talking for too long on the podcast. People can't handle women with opinions." That was the exact phrasing. You can quote it, put it in the tabs. JD did not say anything. He was just worried that I would go through all 100 movies. And you know what? That's fair. That's
I-
a very valid concern.
wasn't
That is
even
honestly.
It was never about you. I said, oh my God. I knew you were
You
going to
don't
have
need to
more than me,
spiral.
but I had more. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Everybody knows I am giving you shit and that none of
God.
this is real and
Everybody
I am a
but
gigantic
me.
liar.
Jesus.
Everyone here, for the record, I'm a huge fucking liar. JD is great. He never told me that I'm too much of a mouthy bitch, although he did.
Oh,
But
Jesus.
like we won't.
Michelle.
He's gonna get so much hate mail. No, he never said that. I say I'm a mouthy bitch. He's never said that out loud.
Well, in that
so.
case, I just got one other thing then that I want to talk about.
No, I want to hear your 3. If they were good enough for you to put them on the list, fuck it. We just put out a 3-hour episode. I think they can handle an hour and a half. Can you,
Well,
listeners? Can you? If this is a live show, they'd be like, yeah.
Okay,
They're not.
fine. So
Yeah.
the I also had another sort of double feature. So maybe this actually works in with that other one. It's 4 movies, but it's 2 different kind of double features. 2 movies that I thought again came from a very similar place. The first is a movie that I've actually been anticipating for quite a while. Starring Heather Graham and Bruce Davison and Barbara Crampton.
Oh,
It's called Suitable Flesh.
have not seen it yet.
Directed by Joe Lynch, written by Dennis Powley. Dennis Powley wrote, I believe, Reanimator. He wrote both Reanimator and From Beyond for Stuart Gordon back in the day. And this movie, based on an H.P. Lovecraft story called The Thing on the Doorstep, and has been marketed and pushed out. In fact, it says here on the Wikipedia page, it is a spiritual successor to Stuart Gordon's 1980s Lovecraftian horror films Reanimator and From Beyond. And like I said, even Barbara Crampton is in here, and she was in both of those movies, and she's great. I bring this movie up because, as I said, this is a movie where they very clearly were deliberately trying to mimic an older sort of accidental sort of tone and feeling, but it unfortunately for me felt very artificial. They were
you were so excited.
I know, they were trying so hard to be something deliberately that only works when you are that thing sort of inherently. I don't know how else to explain it. Also, I didn't feel like, weirdly enough, we were talking about the oddly sexual nature of Fall of the House of Usher. There's a lot of this movie that didn't so much feel to me like a 1980s Stuart Gordon Reanimator or From Beyond film. There's a lot of this that, frankly, feels like a fucking early 1990s fucking Skinamax Red Shoe Diaries softcore porn. And it's just really weird. The makeup effects when things do get going are okay. But this one, I was genuinely disappointed. This one didn't work for me. Now, obviously, plenty of people have seen it and loved it. It's getting smash reviews. So again, don't just take my word for it. I was unfortunately disappointed. And the other one then that I want to mention, since Michelle hasn't had a chance to see Suitable Flesh, and I mention it specifically because I think it's a movie that actually did what Suitable Flesh was supposed to do and is much more successful at it. It's still not a perfect movie, but it's a movie that was just made available on streaming. It's either on Hulu or Prime. I don't remember. It's called The Breach. Are you familiar with The Breach, Michelle?
I am not. At least
Okay.
not by name.
I had never even heard of it until just the last few days. I happened to be browsing through that thing that pops up on Rotten Tomatoes where they rank all the horror movies that have been released that year based on their overall Rotten Tomatoes scores. And then I saw it on streaming. Here's the first thing you need to know about The Breach. The executive producer of The Breach is motherfucking Slash from Guns N' Roses. And he also did a bunch of the music for this movie. And this movie is so, from my perspective, and again, a lot of people from my perspective, this movie is so much more a spiritual successor to movies like Reanimator and From Beyond. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed those films, and it's a flawed film. It definitely has its limitations. But the special effects when they get to them are cool. There's some very grotesque stuff that goes on here. A really interesting sort of is he possessed or is he a pod person or is he just gone crazy sort of performance. From this guy, Adam Kenneth Wilson, who plays a character named Cole Parsons. This, to me, was so much more along the lines of those kind of films. And while, again, I probably would still land it at about a 3.5 skulls because there are a couple of things very much specifically about it that fell flat for me, I really enjoyed this. And so if you do see Suitable Flesh and it doesn't quite work for you the way it did for me, check out The Breach. If you did see Suitable Flesh and it worked for you, fucking check out The Breach. It's a good time.
If you are a human and you like movies,
if you're alive.
The Breach.
It also has Alex Lifeson
like
from
movies.
Rush in it. You know, the guitar player from Rush? You probably don't know, Michelle, because Rush is old.
I know Rush,
Did
I
you
know
know?
one song. It is the really long one.
2112.
Nope.
That's the really long
Um,
one. It gets 20
well, it was
minutes
on
long.
Rock Band.
Oh
It's on
well.
Rock Band, and I've now forgotten the name of it.
Shows you what you
So
know. Anyway,
I'm really great
no,
with music.
it's a good time. Like I said, some really rad special effects, especially in the third act. Gets a lot of mileage out of a very limited supply of things. It was a really good time. I strongly suggest you check it out.
I love that. Did you
Awesome.
have another double feature then?
No, those were the two double features. Was Suitable Flesh the Breach and the Boogeyman Cobweb, just because they were again so similar in some of the things they
Oh,
presented. The
I
only
see. So
other,
you had two double features, and
yeah,
one we had talked about. Okay,
yeah, but I had them as separate groupings, so I
I
guess
got
we
you.
just
Yep.
yeah. So I only have one other movie that I want to talk about, Michelle. And please, honestly, is there anything that jumps to mind for you as a movie that you didn't talk about previously that you would like to give a shout out to?
Sure. I was gonna put it in my image, but I rewatched Upgrade from 2018. It's not horror; it's more sci-fi action, but
Okay.
fucking love that movie. Loved it even more the second time around. It's great. Are
I
you familiar with Upgrade?
I don't know if I am or
Oh
not.
shit.
I'm doing a quick Google
A
here to
guy
see.
is involved in a car accident and
I
is
know
told
I'm.
that he becomes a quadriplegic and he's told that they can implant something in his body that becomes basically AI and can control his limbs for him because there's a disconnect between his brain telling his limbs how to move. And then he becomes like a really good killing machine, and it's so fucking funny at times. It's really fucking dark at other times. It's just everything that I want in a movie. I really love sci-fi action flicks. I know we talk about horror a lot, but sci-fi is really my jam because it makes me think a lot. And
Oh,
this one's great. Fucking love it.
this was this was also written and directed by the guy who wrote Saw, and it also plays the dude
Oh
who's
shit.
in the
Really?
bathroom with Carrie Elwes. Yeah, Lee Wano is the
Oh my
writer
god. I
director of
didn't
this.
even mean to accidentally do more Saw stuff,
Yeah.
but maybe that's why I love it so much because yeah, that's definitely the guy from Saw. Damn it. But yeah, no, this is nothing like Saw. It's I don't want to say it's nothing like Saw. It's fantastic. But I think that whether you feel good or bad about it, oh shit, they're making a TV series. So I'll be
Oh,
watching that. It's
sweet.
honestly it's on my list of favorite movies of all time, and so I rewatched it for Spooktober, and I fucking love it. It's so
Sweet. I'll have
good.
to check that out.
Yeah.
So then the last thing that I want to talk about is it's the only movie that I brought to talk about today that was not a 2023 release. This one goes back to 2020.
Oof,
And
the dark days.
it's the Brandon Cronenberg film Possessor. Have you seen Possessor, Michelle?
Yes, and I
Okay.
remember you asking, and I had told you I felt very meh about it, but that I liked Antiviral by Brandon
Right.
Cronenberg.
Yeah,
Yep.
so Brandon Cronenberg has 3 feature films at this point, right? We got his very first feature film was called Antiviral. It came out way back in 2012. And then he did Possessor in 2020 and Infinity Pool in 2023. I have seen Antiviral. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't blown away by it in any way. I saw Infinity Pool, and Infinity Pool did not work for me. But our good friend Kevin from our episode a while back about The Seed, a frequent podcast listener, he has been telling me for the longest time that he thinks Possessor is far and away the best Brandon Cronenberg film that there is, and that even though I didn't like either of those other two, I should definitely check it out. And so I finally got around to checking it out, and holy shitballs did I love this movie. This movie is fucking twisted and weird, and it's like horror sci-fi in the best way. It's fucking violent, and Brandon Cronenberg really likes stabbing people. Holy shit, does he like stabbing people? There's also just a couple of erect penises in this movie for just almost
Love
no
that.
reason at all.
So great.
It's
They're just trying to even the playing field. Do you know how many
I
times
guess
we have seen women
sure.
completely nude?
And to be fair, one of the two erect penises, weirdly enough, I never thought I'd find myself saying this, actually makes sense in the context of the film. The other one, I feel like, is just kind of there to drive home an idea, but would have been sort of unnecessary. It would have been easier to cut the other one, I think, if you had to only cut
wow.
one.
Talk about cutting dick. That's edgy.
But yeah, this it's a movie about an assassin who uses a very particular technique to carry out these assassinations. There are moments where this drops into weird psychedelic experimental film territory and does so really successfully, in my opinion. But then also, at least for my taste, pulls back out of that and continues a narrative. The way this movie twists around back on itself, but not in like a David Lynch Lost Highway Time sort of way. I loved everything about this movie and was very surprised at how much I did enjoy it, considering I wasn't a big fan of Antiviral or Infinity Pool.
I just went to Hulu because it is apparently streaming on there. And first off, it does say Possessor Uncut. So that's
Yeah.
why they did have to have two dicks in there instead of just one. You said they could cut the second, but no, this is the uncut version. They have multiple erect penises.
No, I'm saying if because there's the
aware.
original version where they took out all of the penises, no dicks in that one at all. I'm just saying had it been one of those typical MPAA situations where they make a ridiculous decision, like they had came to him and said, you can have one of those two erect dicks, but not two of them. Just one, like you can have one fuck in a PG-13 movie. You can have one dick in a rated R horror movie. Then if that had been the case, it would have been a lot easier for them to edit out the first dick than the second dick.
I think every movie I watched in Spooktober would have benefited from at least one more dick, except Hot Potato, The Story of the Wiggles. That one dick-free, totally fine. Probably the best version. I am going to give Possessor a second watch, actually potentially tonight, depending on how tired I am.
Have I mentioned how much Brandon Cronenberg likes stabbing people? Holy shit.
I love stabbing.
This movie is bloody as fuck.
This is one of those that the people I listen to for horror news had hyped this up so much that I think I went in a little too excited.
That's fair.
So now that it's been a couple years, I'll give it a second try because I liked Antiviral, didn't hate Infinity Pool. I just was expecting something better. Yeah. I think that concept that they started with could have been way more horrifying.
I do so very much like that there is a pervasive theme from Antiviral into Possessor into Infinity Pool, which is this. It's a dystopian idea, but it's a very specific one where it's like, of course, in a world where all of these bizarre, incredible, powerful new technologies are developed, would be immediately seized upon and capitalized on by massive, like, ultra wealthy power broker sort of people. And it's just like there's this it's very much like a late stage capitalism horror that he's doing, right? There's that theme of where previously it was maybe political groups or other things. It's just boldface. This is just rich people taking advantage of shit that other people can't have, and it's great.
I love that as a general theme because goddamn, eat the rich. Don't actually eat the rich. We here at We Watch Shudder do not endorse eating anybody unless they consent to it, and it does not result in their death, because even if you're a consenting adult and you get eaten alive, apparently that's illegal according to some court cases I have read. So
I would like to state specifically that the opinion I'm about to express is not the opinion of We Watch Shudder, Michelle Roller, Rat Factory Media, or any associated groups other than myself. I also do not want to encourage that you kill and eat anyone, but if you do, for any reason, kill and eat a billionaire, I'll probably get over it real quick.
Oh man, there's going to be one billionaire who listens to our podcast being like, oh man, this is where I come to escape my problems. Now I'm reminded that people want to eat me.
I'll take it back if you give me
Aw.
$1 million.
Yeah, true. You give us $1 million. You sponsor us like Shudder won't, and we won't eat you. We'll spare you.
Well, look, I mean, honestly,
Got
can
it.
you blame Shudder for not wanting to have anything to do with this? We hated like one movie, like one whole
That's
movie.
true.
What's wrong
Not
with us?
bitter at all.
No, it's fine. Of course, who are we? Hey guys, you've been awesome. I gotta be fucking blew me away. That like 100 of you apparently listened to that 2 hour and 43-minute monstrosity we did about the Saw franchise, or have at least
took
listened
so
to
long
some
for me to
part
get
of it.
through
You
it.
guys are fucking dope. That's super cool. What else do we need to talk about today, Michelle? Anything at all?
I got nothing. I'm just immediately going to stop recording, export, and go put on Possessor.
Good idea.
I've heard so much good things. I think the hype train got a little carried away, and I do
Sure.
want to see how I feel now that it's been a while.
You know what I'm going to
So.
do? I'm going to find out where I can watch Upgrade, and I'm going to go do that very thing myself.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, where
'Cause
can I watch
can
Upgrade?
In 2 seconds. Where did I watch it? I think it was HBO, but give me 2 seconds.
I got the Max.
It is Max. Yep. You can
Sweet.
watch on Max. So
All
highly
right.
recommend. It's one of my favorite sci-fi action movies. And
Guys,
it's so fucking
also, for some reason, Shudder is releasing a new movie tomorrow. It's called, tomorrow if you're listening to this on the day it drops. If it's November,
we're in the past.
if it's November 6th, 2023, then the movie's actually dropping today, and we're gonna have a new episode about it tomorrow. It's called Mastema, Mastemah. It's a Shudder original, apparently. We're just fucking ripping out content like we don't know what to do with ourselves, Michelle.
It's totally on accident too. I thought we would have a break.
Well, I'm
to
not
do,
complaining. I'd love it. We
I'm so
got
tired.
shit to talk about.
They don't even know what's coming in Christmas yet.
Oh,
in
God.
Christmas, you guys, we're getting in the holly jolly spirit.
Yo
Yo ho ho, motherfucker. Nope, that's pirates. Ho ho ho, it's Christmas. I just said yo ho ho.
You sure
Which is
did. Yo
pirate.
ho ho and a barrel of monkeys. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
We Watch Shudder is a production of Rat Factory Media, your home for all of today's Rat Factoryist podcasts. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests of We Watch Shudder are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Rat Factory Media. But wait, aren't Rat Factory Media and We Watch Shudder the same people? Shut your cake hole, Charlie. Nobody asked you. We Watch Shudder is available free on all major podcast platforms, and the easiest way to support We Watch Shudder is also free. Just leave a rating and review on your platform of choice. Merge your consciousness with ours on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're at We Watch Shudder on all those social media platforms. Or find us the old-fashioned way, on the web at WeWatchShudder.com or by email at mail@WeWatchShudder.com. Heck, you can even leave us a voicemail at 701-566-9510. No, seriously, 701-566-9510. Try it if you dare.